Adam, take us back in time. When and how did your interest in unknown creatures first start?
Well, I've always been interested in them since I was a child. So what I really enjoyed when I was younger was being out in the woods, out in the forest in my home then of England, and tracking animals, not hunting them, tracking them, finding out what new species I could see, new species to me, that is, as a child, and how I could, their behavior and their interactions. So I was always interested in animals and in their environment. And that progressed on because I was an avid reader. I read all the time. And I would encourage people to read as much as they can. It's very good for you. And I was also, then I became interested in mystery creatures. So what if the Loch Ness Monster existed? What if Bigfoot existed in the United States? And I enjoyed those sort of imaginary and hypothetical scenarios. So it was a progression then to look for them, combined with the obvious adventure of going to remote, sometimes dangerous places, which really appealed to me. I liked taking risks.
Understand. And when when your interests first start to get bigger, was there like a TV show, a movie, or anything like that that made you explore this new world even further?
It was more of a reaction to circumstances and then a book. So let me explain. When I was very young, I had a sister that died of cancer.
Oh.
And that was a profound moment for me, because what it taught me was, although it was horrible, but what it taught me was that you never know when you're going to go, and you should make the most of life. And then I had an injury where I was hit on a sidewalk by a policeman's son who was driving a motorbike illegally, and it crushed my leg. And the doctors told me I'd probably have difficulty walking again.
Okay.
And I wasn't having that. So I trained really hard. I did a lot of physiotherapy and trained really hard. And within a year, I was my city swim champ. So the benefit of that was that there was, I could be very determined. So I was very determined, and I wanted to maximize life. So when I started to read, I think there was an integral part of reading Joseph Conrad's Heart of Darkness, and also the Livingstone accounts of going down the Congo. And those adventure stories really resonated with me. You know, and one of the things we've talked about in the past is how you don't want to be stuck. You don't want to live that sort of mundane life and just not do things.
Exactly.
Not just stay in your comfort zone and not do things, because even though they're mildly uncomfortable, I didn't want a coat that was too tight, but I could still wear it. I didn't want a life that was just ordinary to me. Yeah, that's not judging other people. I'm telling you from my perspective. I wanted to do extraordinary things, and I wanted to take the risks associated with doing extraordinary things. So that was why I ended up doing what I was doing.
And this desire to do more extraordinary things, was it that desire that brought you from the UK to America?
No, well, I didn't. It took a long time to get to America, really. I mean, I did many other things outside of the United States before I ended up coming here. You know, the Congo, Mongolia, Sumatra, looking for dinosaurs, death worms, yerons in China, almost anything other than Bigfoot. I only came to Bigfoot relatively, I think it was like 2011, 2012. But then I'd been, so relatively speaking, it was a long time into my adventures before I got to the United States. When I got here, obviously Bigfoot became extremely fascinating to me. And I think now it's my most fascinating and yet perplexing of all the cryptids I've looked for. but it took a while to get here.
Understand. I mean, traveling all these places and searching for all these things, did you have like a inner desire to be some kind of a modern Indiana Jones?
Well, you know what? I'm very careful with the Indiana Jones things because I think anybody who has an adventure at the moment, they put a hat on them in the media and say, "Here's a new Indiana Jones,"
Kind of.
whoever it is, Oh, he crossed his garden. He's a new Indiana Jones. Of course, I'm joking. It was for me. It was just about the adventure. Yeah, I did wear a hat that looked a bit similar to Indiana Jones, but it's actually not felt, which would be his material. I wore it for practical purposes. So the hat I have is an Australian hat, which is made of leather because it's very hardy. And when I was in Sumatra, I found that the rattan, there's a lot of thorns of rattan. Rattan it can be used for furniture, but the thorns are like that, and they would cut into my head. So wearing that leather hat was extremely useful. It had a practical application in Sumatra, so that's why I picked it up. So I guess I had his hat, but I didn't see myself as him. But there is a parallel which is interesting. I don't think I've mentioned this before, but Roy Chapman Andrews is the archaeologist on who Indiana Jones is based. Now, Roy Chapman Andrews was asked by the president of Mongolia, I think in the 1920s, to investigate the Mongolian death worm. So the real Indiana Jones and I both look for the Mongolian death worm. Yeah. And there's only one other explorer, Ivan Mackley, who ever did that. So yes, in a way, I'm just thinking about it. So yes, in a way, I did copy or emulate the Indiana Jones, but not because of him, sort of by accident, if that makes sense.
It does. I think before you started traveling the world and exploring, hunting monsters and stuff like that, how much experience or travel did you have before?
Well, I traveled quite a bit, and then I think that's an important point. I always say to people say, "Well, can I do what you do?" And I say, well, yes, but I would advise you first of all to know your local woods and background. Get to know how to survive in the woods, how to track, what signs to look for, and then it's good to travel. Now, people who come from Europe regularly travel. So for example, you're based in Sweden right now. You wouldn't think anything of, I don't know, flying or driving to Germany. Denmark's just down the road. And you can go to, say, Turkey, and it's a slightly different culture, but it's very cheap. In the United States, it's much more different. So you've got the country's vast, and there's many different environments, but it's still the United States. Then you've got Mexico and Canada, but it's more of an effort for Americans to travel. And as you know, they don't get the same vacation time that Europeans have.
No.
They have a lot less. So, but it is important to travel and to do things gradually. Like, I would not send someone who's never been out of the United States straight off to the Congo. It'd be a horrific culture shock and very dangerous one. Very dangerous anyway, but on top of that, you need to be able to learn how to behave in other countries, what to look for, and also to make sure, not least because so that you're not exploited by people in those places. So so my best advice is to do things a little bit gradually, and don't go too fast, too hard, no matter how competent you think you are, because you need to learn how to adapt to different cultures and environments.
When you went to the first more unknown exploration, what was the biggest experience that was like super different for you, that really got you to thinking, what am I doing here?
I think it was. Well, I think I'll pick the Congo because that's so dangerous and so different. And it was the bad experience, and I'll tell you the happy one. The bad experience was sitting in a swamp. It was nearly Christmas. I was exhausted. I was covered in cuts, and monkey was for dinner that I'd freshly shot and ate. And I was thinking, what am I doing? What am I doing here? I'm a fool. I'm in the middle of an unexplored swamp. I'm covered in cuts. My coolest thing there was when I was playing drums with the pygmies. So I'm playing drums, and all the pygmies are singing around me, and it was very cool, and I loved it. Yeah, so there
Oh.
are two. There's a nice contrast with the one country.
Would you say that this was maybe one of your also most dangerous trips?
Oh yeah, that's incredibly dangerous, and
Yeah.
nobody should go there. You know, you have tragically you have young men there who will kill you for a packet of cigarettes, no less. Do not go to the Congo. It's a really bad idea, and it will still be a bad idea for a very long time. But there are many places that you can go which are enormously rewarding, and which I've extremely enjoyed. For example, Nepal's a wonderful place, and and has remarkable views, and it's a great place to explore. China with the Yeren, that's not a lot of people have gone and done that yet, and I don't know why really, because that's a great place to go in Hubei province, and Mongolia. If you're a little bit, if you fancy something a little bit more exotic, wonderful. There are many places you can go that are a lot safer than there, where you can have marvelous experiences and in incredible environments.
Wasn't it there in Nepal? You tried to find was it the snowman or the Yeti?
The Yeti, yeah.
Yeti, yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, that's very interesting because the stories of a Yeti go back centuries. So long before the advent of modern religion, the old shamanistic religions listed every known animal, and the Yeti is one of them. And there's been a lot of confusion in the media. The media have said, "Oh, the Yeti's a bear," because tests have suggested it's a bear. Well, if you look at the analysis of the old religions, they do indeed say one type of Yeti is a bear, but the other type is a bipedal creature, and it's very clearly stated. So that was misinformation, and it's always been stated that the Yeti, that type of Yeti, is a creature that lives in the mountaintops. And a lot of Mongolia, a lot of Nepal rather, there's very few people there, so that it's very mountainous, and only about 30% of the country is regularly traversed. Vast mountain ranges for hundreds of miles. There's nobody around, and there's other animals which are very rare, which live there as well. For example, one time when I was in Nepal, a clouded leopard came into my camp, and it was raw because it hadn't seen people, hadn't seen people interested. It was just wandering around, while me and Ian Redmond, the UN ambassador for gorillas at the time, were having a whiskey. There's a clouded leopard in the camp, So my point is, I know it's slightly, it's not quite your question, but I just want to make the point. There are many areas which are untraversed by people. These days, with modern communication and everything being instantaneous, we tend to think that everything's done. But the Victorians thought everything was done, and there was no more science to be had. For example, I remember that was a famous quote in Victorian, because we've done it all. Well, that's not the case, even on our own planet.
I understand. These creatures that you try to find, Bigfoot, Yeti, snowman, are all those things like sci-fi, or is it like a subcategories to occult and supernatural? What's the difference between these creatures, or all of them the same thing?
Well, they're all very different, but they're all of a physical nature. So I think the uniformity would be that they are all animals or behavior. So a Mongolian deathworm is a physical creature. I don't think it's supernatural. The Yeti is a physical creature. I think Bigfoot is a physical creature. It eats, it leaves footprints or anything else. Now, they may well have properties that we do not yet know or understand. I'm open to that, yeah? There may be unusual behaviors or unusual strategies that they have that we aren't yet tuned into. But I don't think they're ghosts or spirits. They are a physical manifestation I'm looking for. Looking for ghosts is enormous fun, but it's not. And when I go out looking for a Bigfoot or a Yeti, I don't think I'm looking for a ghost, for example.
No.
I don't think I'm looking for something that's dead or is energy or something. I think it's a physical entity that may have unique properties, but it's still a physical creature.
Okay. So are you only exploring physical creatures, or do you like to try to find aliens or Draculas and stuff like that?
Well, I'm not. I'm never going to look. I don't think. Aliens. I'm interested in aliens. Don't get me wrong. I think that. Aliens. I think that the universe has more inhabited planets than there is every grain of sand on every beach in the whole world. So the notion that there isn't alien life and intelligent life per se, you're just not thinking about the vastness of the universe. If you disagree with that, there must be. But how do I go about exploring that? You know, I'm not trying. I haven't got a spaceship. I haven't got the resources to get out there. I mean, an alien would practically have to knock on my door. So, although I'm interested in aliens, then I don't look for them. I don't see how I can begin to do that, really.
Area 51?
Yeah, well, you can't get in there, you know. I have been to Area 51.
Were you arrested?
I've been there. I haven't been inside it because you have to have, it has to be top secret security clearance to go in there. So they wouldn't let me inside it. But I've been to Area 51. I've been to Rachel, the little town nearby. So yeah, I've been around there, but not inside it. But I'm very interested in stories and anecdotes that people might tell me. And I've heard some fascinating ones. So yeah, I'm interested in them. But I think it's a different matter to being interested in them to actually go looking for them, because I wouldn't know where to begin. But if someone tells me a story about them, I'm interested. I'll hear it. Ghosts, yeah, I do investigate those. I'm interested in those and have been since I was a kid. It's not my main thing. I think cryptids, unknown species are, but I do look for them, and I do look for evidence. And I've been doing more of it recently around some of the old deserted manor houses. And also some of the more haunted areas in the south. There's some old buildings and things like that I like to knock about with, and I've had some very interesting results. Some very creepy things have happened, which have been fun. So I look for those. Yeah,
I'm thinking about when you go looking for a creature. I mean, you have to have some level of minimum level of evidence to try to find some kind of creatures. What's when you try to find a creature, what kind of evidence or proof do you need for you to go about and explore these creatures? How do you investigate it?
I think that's a good question, and it's a point I wanted to make. So thank you for introducing it. So the first thing is, if I'm looking for a creature, I want to research the pedigree of it. So what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, how long has there been stories about that creature? Yeah. So let me give you an example. When I was looking for the orang pendek in Sumatra, stories about that, whether you go back to Marco Polo, he talks about them. Yeah. So whether you believe in the veracity of Marco Polo or not is almost immaterial. The fact are that he's recording stories of a creature in 1292 in that area, you know, so that's interesting to me. The Yeren in China, it goes back to BC. I mean, it's a very long time. Now with the Chupacabra, for example, I can only find in Mexico area, I can only find stories going back 40, 50 years. Very suspicious of that, the integrity of that then. You know, the second thing is the ecosystem. Does that creature have an ecosystem that could support it? So obviously you're looking for a viable population. You have to have a minimum of 20 plus in order for this to be a breeding population. So is that area got enough food and habitat to support it? So if you said, for example, oh, I saw a Bigfoot walking through the streets of Stockholm, but it was at night, I'd be like, well, I'm not going to be going looking for that. That's a nonsense, you know. But if you said there might be stories of Bigfoot-like creatures in the forests of northern Sweden, I'd be very interested because it's more remote, yeah. And then if you said, well, the stories of the Bigfoot in northern Sweden go back 500 years, then I'm even more interested. Now, the final thing is how much do I want to go and look for it? Some things are like, it's like anything. How much do you want to go and look for something? Some things you want to look for more than others, don't you? So, and often it was my time and my money. So if I was, sometimes I'd be making a film, you know, and that'd be great. Because it's not my money. Then somebody else is taking me to whatever country I'm going to, like, for example, China with Monster Quest and the History Channel. But with a lot of it, I was self-financed. So I had to really want to go and spend my own money to go to these places in order to do it. So it's in short, it's a mixture of desire, historical pedigree, and sort of whether there's still an ecology to support it in that environment.
I understand. I'm thinking about of all these creatures that you've tried to find, read about. Most of these creatures, most people have only seen them on television, movies, video games, things that only exists so far, at least in people's imaginations. And I'm thinking, what was the reaction of friends and family when you first told them you were exploring the world for these things?
Well, I don't think I've ever been asked that before, and I like it. So I think my poor mother was very worried about it all. Yeah, she's very worried about me going to these places. And I remember when my first book came out, my first extreme expedition book came out, because I write novels now as well. I write, like, the new one is The Moon-Eyed People. So I write novels, but my expedition books, my first one was called Extreme Expeditions, and somebody had written, "Oh, I hope Davis survives long enough to write another book. I really enjoyed it," or something like this. And my mother was like, you see, you know, like this. So she was very worried. I think my friends were fairly sort of, you know, well, good luck to you, don't die type thing. I never faced any ridicule from my family and friends. Not that, I mean, they may joke about it, but I don't really care what other people think. I care what my family think in terms of not wanting them to suffer, but, you know, they got used to it. So my mother was used to it. So, you know, at first she was like that, but after so many years, she was like, well, have a good time, be careful, and blah, blah, blah. So they adapted. But in terms of what all other people think, you know, I don't really care what other people think. I'm not doing it for them. I don't care what Barry down the road thinks, or Betty Sue. I couldn't care less. And you know, I want them to enjoy my stuff. Don't get me wrong. So, but if they are hostile to it, well, then forget them. I'm not after. It's not a political party. I'm not after their vote. I can do what I want, and I will.
You know? I understand, but has it had to been? I mean, I feel like a very common thing when you publish something on the internet and you're exploring these different creatures. Has there been like a lot of keyboard warriors and what's this kind of nonsense? Why are you doing that? Give it a rest.
There always is, but you can make a choice, don't you, man? You make a choice, and the choice you make is you can be as bland as you want and not cause any ripples on the ocean. But then, where's your trace? If you're going to do something, then somebody's going to hate you for it. Yeah, somebody's going to hate you for it. So no matter what you do, and of course I faced hostility, and at first when you're not used to it, it can take a little bit of time to adjust, because people are especially emboldened on the internet, you know what I mean? Because they know that their internet teeth aren't going to get knocked out if they're hostile, you know. So you know, the sort of but you shouldn't let people intimidate you. You know, you shouldn't let people intimidate you. And it's also bad for research. You wouldn't believe the amount of people who I see, who have spoken to me, who tell me their story of their encounter, but start it. The start of it is, I've not told anyone but my wife or this, but, and then they'll tell me an encounter with a Bigfoot, or I've not told anyone but my very close friends, because they're afraid of ridicule. Because they're afraid of ridicule in this modern world. I of course I get attacked all the time for whatever I do. And especially in the world of Bigfoot, that's particularly, there's always somebody who's going to hate on you for whatever reason. But you should see past that, because you won't achieve anything if you're not prepared to say what you truly think and stand up for it. And it's difficult sometimes. I understand that, but that's a very important message I want to get across. If you write an article or which has no opinions on it, it's very, very mainstay. No one will attack you, but you won't get any. It won't go to the forefront in any way. Yeah,
you won't stand out.
It won't stand out. No, you won't stand out. It'll just be bland. Yeah, bland does not, and it's not saying what you want to say. Yeah, so have the courage to do it. And I know it can be difficult, but that courage is extremely important. Extremely important. If you're going to do a lot of research and a lot of advancement in whatever field you're in, comes in spite of mainstream thinking, not because of it. That's how we make progress, because we challenge the accepted opinions and of the time and move forward. And it's a group of people, or an increasingly larger group of people, that challenge that accepted behavior. And if we don't challenge accepted behavior, then we stagnate. For example, slavery was perfectly normal at one stage, and many people thought that slavery was a good thing, including some very religious and Christian people. Then people challenged that. And at first, they met a lot of opposition. But of course, now we recognize that slavery is completely abhorrent. And I'm drawing that parallel with in terms of behavior and scientific thinking generally, and also social thinking. I'm not trying to say that it's looking for cryptids is the same thing as challenging something as abhorrent as that. But you see what I mean? I'm trying to make the point of it's important to move on against accepted thinking, because accepted thinking needs to modulate, needs to change as we progress as a human race.
I understand. When it comes to being not scared of things, how often does it happen that you think for yourself, what if I investigate this for 20, 30, 40 more years and still don't find any of these creatures? Has that thought ever scared you?
It's not scared me, but I do know of researchers who became very bitter because they hadn't found things that they wanted to find, and I never wanted or it's at them. And there's two things I'd say about that. The first thing is, I've looked for many different things all over the world, and I have found scientific evidence of some of them. For example, the cell-yard serpent and the orang-pendek in Sumatra. So I have found evidence of, not definitive, but I have found evidence. But also, so I haven't been obsessed with one thing, yeah. And I was conscious of your point from an early stage. I didn't want to be the one guy who looked for one thing, didn't find it, and then became an old man and became all miserable. I didn't want to do that, so I looked for lots of different things. The second thing is, I enjoy being out in nature and all of this lot. So literally the moment I have finished talking to you, I am out researching. I'm off out researching, and I'll be out in the woods, and I may find evidence of Bigfoot, but it's extraordinarily unlikely. Yeah, extraordinarily unlikely. But you know what? I'm going out in nature. I'm enjoying the forests. I'm happy. I'll come back, and it's all good. And that's my attitude. So I never, because people will say, "Oh, that's another fruitless day," but the reality of the situation is, if you have that attitude, that's bad, And no, there's never a fruitless day spent in nature. It's a great day. I love it. It's my favorite thing to be.
So you can win. You can always win something.
Yeah, I'm happy just being out there, and and you have to be realistic as well. You know, each book I write takes a minimum of my expedition books takes a minimum of 5 years to write, and that's because I feel like I have to have enough material in it for people to want to feel, for me to feel it's appropriate for people who are purchasing it. Because in reality, most of the time I go out, nothing happens. You know, a leaf blows in the wind, or I see a pretty river and there's some light on it, you know, and it shines in a nice way. Those sort of things. I don't think that's gripping enough for me to want to sell that to you. So I have to wait until important things happen research-wise. But they're very rare. They're very rare. You know, it might be 1 in 1,000 plus days where until something happens, but not before that.
When it comes to all the people you've met across the world, out of all the meetings, which one would you say has affected you the most, that you still remember to this day?
You know, it was last night I was thinking about it.
Yeah.
Because we're putting up a Christmas tree. I know it's early, but
I've done the same thing.
Yeah, I did it last night. And we were putting up a Christmas tree, and get in the mood. Sounds very chintzy, but put on some Christmas music. And on the Christmas music, there was Silent Night. Silent Night. Yeah, that. I think it's originally a German carol. I'm not sure, but Silent Night. And when I was in the Congo the second time, I was with some missionaries, and there was a guy called Dr. Joe Harvey, and he could have made a lot of money working in the hospitals in the United States, but he chose to volunteer as a missionary in the Congo, and it was horrendous. We were in a border town called Mfondo. There was fighting going on across the Umbangi River. Across the river. So when I say across the river, it's well, I don't know, a couple of minutes across the river. It's just a river. You can hear it going on all the time. Artillery shells are going on. And he said to me, I was leaving. I was getting a little Anatov transport plane out of there, and it was nearly Christmas. And he said, you know, can you post? There's no way this package will get to America. He said, can you take it back to the United States, back to the United Kingdom, and post it from the UK to the US? It's a package for our families. And they were making tape recordings of Christmas songs, and they were singing Christmas songs. And I worked in the hospital with him just for a volunteer day, and it was horrendous. Me and a guy with half his face had collapsed with leprosy. We were holding down the woman because he had no anesthetic while he performed this surgery on her to save her life. And I remember we were singing Silent Night round it, you know, and we were all singing, and you could hear Silent Night, Holy Night, all is calm, and that was it. And I was thinking, oh my gosh, we are in the middle of a I'm not going to swear, I nearly did. We are in the middle of a battle here, singing Silent Night, and we really were. There were rebels on one side. People shot at me while I was there, and I thought, this is a greater and better man than I am. Very humbling. There he was, trying to save lives because he was a good person. Yeah, and his faith was very strong and good for him. But I was very humbled by that experience. And he is singularly the person who had the most profound effect on me of all my travels. And it was nothing to do with cryptids. It was because that was a very good person. Sounds like somebody you want to have in your life always. Yeah, he was a remarkable man. And you know, I wish him well. God bless him. When it comes to your profession, correct me if I'm wrong, the scientific term for it, cryptozoology, the field. What do you think about the field of cryptozoology for the future? Do you see younger people joining the cause? Well, it's really important, you know. I mean, I mean, I'm obviously not going to last forever. I'm not getting any younger, unfortunately. So I'm keen to encourage other people to do this because some of it's quite physical. I still climb mountains. I climbed LeConte the other day, so I'm still good for a while. But I'm conscious that I won't be forever. Nobody is. We're all mortal. We're all mortal. So the question is, do I want young people to come in? Absolutely, I do. I think it'd be wonderful to see more young people come in and take an interest in it. And I'm always very pleased when young people say, "Oh yeah, I like it," or they want to ask questions. I would like nothing more than one day to be a very, very old man in a rocking chair, watching other people go out and do expeditions and coming up with stuff. That would be wondrous. And if I can positively influence them in any way to do that, then all the better. But it's never about me. You can never make this subject about yourself or your ego. It's a really bad idea. So yeah, we'll move along, and we'll move along with other explorers. I mean, I consider myself an explorer per se because of the stuff I've done. So there are plenty of places to explore still in this world. But beyond that, I would be fascinated to see. I won't be around, but to see that. But exploration in other worlds. If I lived in a few hundred years, I'm sure I'd be one of those guys who'd go off in a bucket ship spacecraft to go and explore some unknown planet, and that's what I'd do. You know.
Speaking of explorations, your next expedition. Tell me about that one. Where, when?
Well, I've just come back from investigating somewhere called the Land Between the Lakes, which is on the borders of Tennessee and Kentucky. It's not really a wilderness in the middle of nowhere, but it is an extraordinary place. And if anyone wants to see that film, Relic Films, RELIC, The Land Between the Lakes, the first film, they should definitely see it because it's an extraordinary film, and it features a real life encounter with Bigfoots. There were several. Amazing. It was astounding. Relic Films, The Land Between the Lakes. I can't say it enough. And I've been working with them and made a few more films. We went back to The Land Between the Lakes because of what happened. And I've also got a new film out called The Vanished. As for coming up, The Moon-Eyed People, I've just launched that book, the novel. Yeah, the new one. But in the future, I'm planning things right now for a new film connected with paranormal type ghost stuff, not Bigfoot. But later on in the year, I've got a couple of extraordinary things coming up. But we'll see. Yeah, they're just in the process, so I don't want to announce them yet.
More like X-Files.
Yeah, well, you know what? I'm always doing something. You know me. I mean, even when I was your teacher, I was always up to something. So I've got about 3 or 4 things in the pipe, going on, and we'll just see which ones come up. But there are some things I'm really looking forward to next year already, which is good.
Sounds great. Adam, you've spoken a little bit about what got you into this whole field and your upcoming projects. Anything more you would like the audience to know about your field and passion?
I think if you are interested in this field, you're always, feel free to ask me questions. But remember what I said: start small. Learn your local ecology and then progress onwards and do some travel before you go and do what I do. But also the main thing is about having fun, enjoying things, and not being overly intense, and being able to stand scrutiny. Yeah, because you will get some. No matter what you do, you will get some, and it's important you learn to be able to stand that. And if people want to find me, I have an Adam Davies public Facebook page, Adam Davies Explorer on YouTube now, and I have a list of books on Amazon. If it's got my face on it, it's a book about my expeditions. If it's got a piece of art, it's a novel. And so but the most important single thing I can say about this stuff is enjoy it, enjoy things, because life goes quicker than you think. So make the most of your life. Don't sit there. And the biggest danger, I think, from a philosophical point of view, is to live in a comfort zone. because if you live in your comfort zone too long, you're nearly dead. Don't do it.
Adam, thank you so much for doing this interview. It meant a lot to me. And since we are at the end of the year, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you. And it's been wonderful to see you after all these years. I
Likewise.
feel like it was really easy. Like after all these years, it was like we picked up our conversation like straight away. Like there was no, it was very easy to talk to you. And you know, you're a remarkable young man. You know, I wish you, all the success in your new endeavors.
You caught my attention in the classroom, and you never lost it.
That's wonderful to hear. That's what every teacher wants to hear. It's the best compliment you can give a teacher. Believe me.
Thank you, and take care.
You too.
You too.